Mr. Blue, I'll restate the question. Every year the city has increased its budget, yet there is very little noticeable change, i.e. projects, infrastructure, budget increases for chamber, employee raises, a 2% and 3% raise in the last 8 years. What do you propose to do to change these practices?
Well, the first thing I would do is call for a forensic audit. Forensic audits would root out any oddities, any irregularities, and probably any corruption if it exists. In addition to that, I would go back to when we talk about infrastructure projects. I think it's great that we've been focusing on 459 and the 2059 corridor, but I also think it's equally important that we start focusing on the creation of mom and pop businesses back within our own neighborhoods as an economic generator. In addition to that, as it relates to pay raises for the city employees, I think we need to do a comprehensive study, see what the fair and going rate is through the Jefferson County personnel board. For those individuals that have already maxed out in that system, what I propose doing is instituting a incentive policy based on the number of years where they receive bonuses twice a year. For those individuals that are just coming in, for example, the firemen that we train, after we train these individuals, they're obligated to the city for a 2-year time frame. After that time frame, most of these ones that have been trained decide to go to other cities. What we've got to start doing is making Bessemer attractive as a municipality to get the finest policemen that we can have, the finest firemen, and the finest city workers. The first thing that you must do in any city is focus on the big three, being police, the fire department, and city service workers. So again, as Ms. Alexander alluded to, the federal funds are there. The city of Birmingham is receiving over $15 million in HUD grants this year, as opposed to the city of Bessemer receiving only close to $800,000. So again, let's focus on priorities, see what the Jefferson County Personnel Board says in terms of pay rates, and then we can go from there.
Thank you. Mr. May, I'll restate the question. Every year the city has increased its budget, yet there is very little noticeable change, i.e. projects, infrastructure, budget increases for chamber, employee raises, a 2% and 3% raise in the last 8 years. What do you propose to do to change these practices?
Well, first of all, Ron, I would disagree with the author of that question. I think that if you just walk around, drive around, or look around in Bessemer, then you would note there has been significant changes over the last 7.5 years. In respect to the remainder of the question, I know that you should operate and work as an elected official as better than you do your own home. The cost of goods and services go up as it relates to the city just as it does as it relates to your own home. Thank God that we have been able to increase the budget, because if you had not been able to increase your budget, then the city would be operating at a deficit. I know that there have been several references to audit. There has been an audit of the city finances every year that I have been in office by a certified public accountant. Those areas they have found deficiency, they have reported them out, and we have worked to clear those up. In respect to infrastructure, when we took office, and this is one of my pet projects, is that I want to put paving. I want to pave every street, every alley, install sidewalks, curbs, and gutters throughout the city. When we took office in 2002, there was only that was less than $85,000 in the tax revenue funds. Between 2003 and 2009, we built that fund up to over $2.4 million. I will submit that we were being good trustees of the public funds. That is how and why you see paving going on throughout the city of Bessemer currently. And we propose to continue to do that if we have those persons who are in office, who have a vision, and who are willing to work with the mayor to try to do just those kinds of things. It can be done. It just needs people who see it and who are willing to cooperate with us and/or bring a better proposal to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gully. Every year the city has increased its budget, yet there is very little noticeable change, i.e. projects, infrastructure, budget increases for chamber, employee raises, etc., a 2% and 3% raise in the last 8 years. What do you propose to do to change these practices?
First, we must have a true budget. Right now, and when I say a true budget, we must have a budget. State law, I don't know if it's changed since I was in municipal government, but it required you to have your budget passed by October 1 of each year. And it gave you an opportunity for a contingency, but that was an exception to the rule. But obviously, you know, it's kind of become the rule now. But you must have some sort of a true budget in order to operate and stuff by it. It cannot be passed 6 months into the year. You have an economic development department whose job it is to go out and secure those funds. It's community and economic development that's supposed to go out and secure those funds on the economic side of it to bring businesses into the city, but on the community side of it to bring up those communities, bring up that infrastructure in those communities. And I haven't seen a lot of that, a great deal of that. Now, you know, there was programs like Bessemer First Time Home Buyers Program that helped the communities bring up, build houses for those people who couldn't qualify in conventional methods to purchase homes. There was federal dollars to tear down dilapidated structures and clean lots. There were federal dollars to pave streets from our gas tax funds. But what we have to do is get a true audit by which we can operate by, and then don't continue to raise that budget each year if you don't have those funds coming in. So I would say that before you can do anything, you need a true budget in order to operate by. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ballard, every year the city has increased its budget, yet there is very little noticeable change, i.e. projects, infrastructure, budget increases for chamber employee raises, a 2% and 3% raise in the last 8 years. What do you propose to do to change these practices?
The amount in the budget increase that the citizens see on a yearly basis, it gives the appearance when we go from 30 million to 35 million that's in our annual budget, it gives the appearance that since we're spending more money, we're going to receive more services and we're going to see more progress. That is fundamentally the traditional political way that people in public office are able to place even a greater burden of responsibility on the citizens of the city in which they're operating in this budget. The people moving about the city are able to see. That's how this question arose. It's not just imagined. There's a legitimate claim that we're spending more and more money. There's more and more promises going out. There's more and more ideas going out. But yet we've been willing for so long to settle for nothing, and that's what we've received. And the progress that I intend on trying to implement that would take us into the next 50 to 100 years has to solely do with infrastructure. And there's two types I want to touch on real quick. There's two types of infrastructure that right now is on the cutting edge of a global impact that we need in this city and be one of the first ones on board. The one type is called a hard infrastructure, which includes an energy infrastructure. This includes, and not limited to, energy power networking by way of electrical and solar energy. It includes substations.
Mr. Ballard, your time is up.